my loves, welcome back to my channel. This week's video is going to be all kinds of chaos because we're going to go through the 119 books I read in 2024 and I'm going to tell you A, about the ones that are worth reading, and B, I'm going to try and just quick fire through them and tell you about them in a sentence. But I love the app, so is that going to happen? Who can say? I have got the books in front of me that I read last year. They occupy the entire table. There is a lot to say. So let's dive in, shall we? Grab yourselves a drink, let's get cozy, and let me tell you about the books that were worth reading. First three books we're going to talk about is the Air Awakens series by Elise Clover. So we've got book 1, which is Air Awakens. We have got book 2, which is Fire Falling. And then we have got book 3, which is Earth's End. Now these are super short little books. So with this series, you've got a library apprentice, you have got a sorcerer prince, and an unbreakable magic bond. And those three things combined create a really interesting world to get lost within. Very easy to consume. Elise has got a really unique style of writing, and I enjoyed this. It's good, but I was waiting for it to be great. Next, we've got Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Emotional devastation. Emotional devastation, yeah. Wouldn't change a thing. Definitely worth reading, especially if you want your heart to shatter time and time again. I listened to Think Like a Monk on audio. This is my first self-help book of the year, and it really set the bar. Full of insightful pieces of wisdom, super easy to implement into your life, and actually probably a great starter if you're new to self-help. I think you would really enjoy this. It was absolutely jam-packed full of light bulb moments for me. This absolute masterpiece, The Great Year by Kim Leggett, and this took my breath away. Feminine rage, power, oh my god, it is one of a kind of read, super special, and will leave a lasting impression on your heart and soul. A must, an absolute must. Then I was embarking on my House of Sky and Breath reread in preparation for House of Flame and Shadow. So this, we annotated the crap out of this book, and I loved it even more the second time around. I was a huge fan from my first read, but from my second reread of this series, I just fell in love with it even more. I had a whole new appreciation for this, and I will never stop recommending Crescent City series. It's one of my all-time faves, and definitely worth reading. And that leads us nicely onto House of Flame and Shadow. Now, this divided the fans. It really truly did. But as I've said before, I'll say it again, I'm a lover, an absolute bloody lover of this book. Again, annotated it so much, and it has such a special place in my heart and soul. Love the characters, love the story, love the journey. Yeah, people are moving a little bit mad. It's definitely one that's not going to be for everybody, but if you love the first two books and you're like a hardcore fan, then this is definitely worth reading. Then we've got Winter So Wicked by Emily Blackwood. Now, I hadn't heard a lot of people talk about this. This is basically about an elite academy, and our female main character, Hunter, has been trained her entire life to be a lethal assassin, fae, basically. And I really love the concept of this. I thought it was gonna absolutely just knock it out of the park. I actually ended up giving this 3.75 stars, so it fell a little bit middle of the road for me. I love the slow burn, I love the academy setting, but there were just some things that felt a little bit repetitive. It felt a little bit recycled. Didn't hit its mark like I thought it would. Then we've got Filthy Rich Vampire by Geneva Lee. The premise of this had me sold on the first line, and it was Gossip Girl meets Twilight, and I was like, say no more. I am sold. So I went in to this expecting to love it because I love those two things, Gossip Girl and Twilight, so much, and sadly I just didn't love this. I enjoyed the world, I enjoyed the concept. The last chunk of the book was better than the first half of the book, and I gave it a 3.75 stars, but now looking back over it, I feel as though it would be a 3. It would definitely be a 3-star. Then we start the Remnant Chronicles series with The Kiss of Deception. This was a 5-star read through and through. The plot, the concept, everything felt so original, everything felt fresh and new. I ate this up, and then obviously I moved on to the next 2 books in the series, which is Heart of Betrayal and then Beauty of Darkness. And they were also amazing. Book 1 was actually my favourite, but book 2 and 3 were like 4.5, 4.75, I think. They were also really good. This whole entire series, I cannot recommend enough. It's a YA completed trilogy. It's basically about a princess who's supposed to get married, but on the morning of the said arranged marriage, she makes a run for it, makes a fresh start at this village. A couple of weeks later, 2 handsome strangers arrive. One happens to be the prince that she was supposed to marry, and the other is the assassin sent to her Only she has no idea, obviously, and the story proceeds from there, and it's so good. Then listen to The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest on audio, and this knocked my socks off. It was absolutely, I just loved it. I think when you're looking for a self-help book, everybody is wanting something a little bit different. It's quite a personal thing. So each book, just because it hits for me, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hit for you, but what I look for in a self-help book is something that moves me, something that resonates deep within my soul on an emotional level. That's what I need. I don't like technical jargon, psycho babble kind of stuff that just feels very wordy. I need something to connect. I need to love the writing. It just needs to just hit here. And this book was that. Bonded by Thorns and Woven by Gold. This is a wide choose fantasy series. So if you're wanting a fun, spicy, good time, pick this up because that's what you're going to get. It's not serious, it's not amazing fantasy, it's not going to blow your mind, but if you're wanting a good time, a fun time, a light time, this is that. Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings wrecked me. I sobbed and sobbed and then sobbed some more. Truly. It's a Bible for grief, loss, parental trauma, and it's the kind of book you're going to want to revisit time and time again. It's a must. Then I read my second Adrienne Young book, Spells for Forgetting. This is super short and it's absolutely brilliant. It's one of those books that keeps you on the edge of your seat, keeps you guessing. It's a blend of genres, so you've got a little bit of mystery, a little bit of magical realism, a little bit of romance, a little bit of thriller. All that combined together just makes chef's kiss, absolute amazing kind of standalone read. And it was a little bit overdue, but I read The Cruel Prince and then obviously followed that up with the other two books because I love The Cruel Prince so much. Where had I been? I'd been living under a rock before I read this, obviously. And I know this is a little bit of a Marmite read. It's kind of like, if you love it with your whole heart. If you don't love it, you're firmly on team hate it. I'm firmly on team love it. I love this so much. It's YA, so it doesn't have it doesn't have any spice, actually. But if you're wanting something that's more political led, more plot driven, and you are wanting the blueprint for enemies to lovers. Like, people say there's not a lot of romance in these books, in this series, and there's not. But the romance that's in here is one of my favourite romances ever. Then I entered my cowboy era, and this did not disappoint. I really truly think Elsie Silver sets the bar for the best cowboy romance out there. This is such a good time. You're going to be laughing, screaming, kicking, giggling your feet the entire way through. This series, Chestnut Springs, hits so hard. Now, obviously, because I'm a Cruel Prince fan, I picked up How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories. And this is really short, but it's also beautifully illustrated inside. It's like a collection of short stories. It's just gorgeous. You literally can read it so quickly. It really does not take a lot of reading, but if you love the Cruel Prince series, you're gonna really enjoy this. It's just very sweet, very wholesome, a gorgeous little addition to the series. Now, this one is going to be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage, and I didn't love it like everybody else did, and I wondered what was wrong with me. I think I gave this like 2.75 stars, unless you're wanting a really sweet, easy read. Like, I know romance is typically sweet and predictable and easy. Well, it's not always sweet, actually, that's not true. But too sweet, too easy, in my opinion. Then we read A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. I had really high hopes for this. I don't know why, but reading this felt like such a chore. I had really high expectations. I thought it was going to give me the same feeling that I got with Throne of Glass, and I could not have been more wrong. I remember thinking that this book felt like a real mixture of ebb and flows. There were times when I was really invested in the plot, and I was like, oh, this feels like it's going somewhere. And then it just kept falling flat, and the more times it fell flat, the more I got disconnected. I initially thought this was like a right book, wrong time situation for me, but now looking back, I don't know that it was. I just don't think me and this book connected in the way that I hoped we would. I read The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. Having loved The Cruel Prince, I really thought this was gonna be really good. And I just was very much unsure, a bit on the fence with this one. I've heard that Prisoner's Throne, which is the second part of this, is supposed to be really good. Haven't read that yet, haven't got around to it. Really want a Jude and Carden. And sadly, the main characters in this are not Jude and Carden. And so therefore I was like, okay, I'm craving those characters. And this, I'm kind of comparing them. That's what's happening here. I'm putting them on the same pedestal that I have got Jude and Carden, and they're not matching up, and it's not fair to do that to them. So I think maybe giving some time and space away from this series and revisiting it again at a later date would be the best course of action in order for me to have the best kind of experience. So I'm a little bit sat on the fence with this one. Listen to Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett on audio. This felt a little bit disconnected for me. I didn't connect with it on that deep level that I was looking for. Felt very matter of fact, very much like statement fact kind of situation, and I was looking for some depth, I was looking for some nuance, I was looking for some emotional kind of connection, and I didn't get that with this. So if you're the kind of person that enjoys a self-help book that's more matter of fact, more like practical, then you might really enjoy this. I do really enjoy Stephen's podcast, by the way. I just want to add that in. I do really enjoy his podcast, so I expected to like this, but it just didn't give me that feeling that I was looking for with a self-help book. The Bridge Kingdom and the Traitor Queen, this is like the first little duology that's together. Then there's other books in the series, but they're kind of duologies as well. And if you're looking for an adventure of a lifetime that's going to give you thrills, it's going to give you fun, it's going to give you a super feisty female main character that you're going to love and adore, yeah, this is that. I read What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, and I annotated it, and I had the best time, and I will never not recommend this actual duology, because I obviously read Where the Library Hides too when that came out, and this just is such a beautiful, luxurious, rich reading experience. It's historical fantasy set in 19th century Buenos Aires, with a female main character who's a little bit stubborn, a little bit bold, a little bit fierce, all those things that we love, and it is just full of mystery, intrigue, magic, and beauty, and it is one of a kind. God tier, Roman Empire, masterpiece, the best of the best. I will never not recommend this book. It is one of my all-time favourites ever. Please, please, please read it. The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I actually really enjoyed this first part of the book. I thought it was a really promising start to the series, easy to consume fantasy, romantasy. The concept was really cool. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. It was what I looked for in a romantasy. But then I read book 2 and it fell so flat. It was the biggest disappointment probably of the year for me in terms of reading. I just didn't enjoy it. The plot kind of went nowhere. All the attributes that I loved about the male main character in the first book, in the second book, they were nowhere to be seen. It was like he didn't even know who he was anymore. And yeah, it just was a huge, massive flop. So for me, this isn't a series I will be recommending in the future. On the other hand, you've got a book like Happy Place by Emily Henry, and this this was so good, so beautiful. It really related to like growing up and that whole experience within a romance kind of context. It's heartfelt, it's hilarious, it's full of witty banter, and it's just beautiful. A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. This is book 2 in the Sacred Stone series. Absolutely loved and adored book 1. Really, really, truly. And then book 2, there'd been a bit of a gap between me picking up book 1 and book 2, I believe. And so I enjoyed this, but not to the extent that I enjoyed the first book. I kind of wish I'd have done it all back to back. I wish I'd have had a chance to just binge the entire series. Now all the books are out. If you want to do that, you can do that. That would be the best way to do it, I think. But if you're looking for a fantasy series that is easy to consume, that's romantasy, that's got a female main character who's a little bit different to your typical female main characters that you see, this is going to be a great fit for you. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I cannot tell you how long I put this book off. I had this book sat on my shelf for years. I swear, years. I've put it off for so long. I just didn't think I was going to enjoy it. I thought it was going to be slow, thought it wasn't going to be for me, and it was just beautiful. Heartbreakingly, heart-wrenchingly beautiful. So if, like me, you're thinking this isn't going to be for you, you've heard it's a bit slow, you know it's big, and you're like, why is it so big? What's happening here? Trust the process, stick with it. It is so worth it. And there are going to be quotes in there that you're going to be underlining left, right, and centre that will stay with you for the rest of your life. It is spectacular. The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. It's giving fae, it's giving pirate, it's giving sirens, and so much more. And it's also giving zero thinking required, no brain power required, and a good time only. Or where is this? This is giving a snooze fest, if I'm honest. It's putting me to sleep. It's the world's smallest fantasy book, and yet why is this taking me weeks to read? Not for me. Do you know what is for me though? Daddy Cade. Daddy Cade is for me. Cowboy Romance, the kind of book that's going to make you smile constantly. yeah. Final Girls by Riley Sager. Also didn't love this. Scared the crap out of me, but not in a good way. Like, it just, yeah, it was scaring me too much. Scaring me in a way that I was like, I don't want to read this anymore. Didn't love. When You're Ready, This Is How You Heal. I needed this. This was the book that I didn't know I needed, and it hit me hard. Hard and fast in the heart. Yep, I cried so much. When You're Ready, This Is How You Heal. It is what it says on the tin. The perfect antidote to that kind of read was Powerless by Elsie Silver. Jazz in this, he does not get enough love for my tastes. Like, he deserves a lot more hype, a lot more appreciation than what he gets. He is the underdog, and I loved him so much, but I also love like the mental and emotional journey you go on with these two characters. That really hit home for me, and yeah, I love this. We have got Restless Stars, the final book in the Zodiac Academy, and this had every single Zodiac Academy trademark you could want and more. I love being back in this world, love being back with these characters, but do I think I needed it to be as long as it did? No, I don't. Lady of Darkness series absolutely smashed it for me. This was giving Throne of Glass. Didn't give me the same feeling, but it gave me the same vibes as Throne of Glass. And it's a 5-book series. We're talking like a big, chunky commitment of a 5-book series that truly just keeps on going. There's a lot here. And I loved this series completely, truly. All 5 books I loved and enjoyed. Some of them felt a little bit long. That's the only criticism I've got. Some felt a little bit long, but the plots really plot, the twists really twist. It's got romance, it's got fae, it's got assassins, and it is really bloody good. Then we've got Collide by Balcabra. This is ice hockey romance. You have got no second chance romance happening with this. You have got Golden Retriever, and it's just a really, really fun time, this one. Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Oh, this was so damn good. So damn good, like a definite highlight of my year, one of my honorable mentions for sure. The whole concept of this, of alchemy, of the magic of the world, I thought personally was really unique, really refreshing. I loved Kingfisher, our male main character. He has got something about him, whatever it is. I need more of that in my life, please. And also the way that Callie Hart writes her plot and writes her spice, and it combines those two things, is absolutely delicious. And I ate this up and cannot wait for book 2. Now with this one, I know people absolutely love Theo in this. The girlies go feral for Theo, and I so see why. I really truly do. But this one didn't hit as high as other books in this series for me, just because it focused so much on parenthood, and that just wasn't what I was looking for, or wasn't what I was wanting. I'm not really big on that kind of theme within books, so for that reason it wasn't my favorite of the series, but I can see why it is a lot of people's favorite of this series. Finally, in terms of the Chestnut Springs series, this one is probably my least favorite of the series. I did enjoy learning more about Beau and his history and his relationship, but for me it felt very disconnected from Chestnut Springs and from the family, and I wanted to see more interactions with their relationship and the family together. And I would have really loved to have seen Bailey like flourish more with her relationships and her friendships, and that just didn't happen for me. So yeah, this one is my least favourite of the Chestnut Springs series. Obviously read the Remnant Chronicles, loved it, and the Remnant Chronicles does come before this duology, so I was really excited to pick up Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves. But what I'm going to say is that I personally prefer the Remnant Chronicles to the Dance of Thieves duology. Mary E. Pearson can truly do no wrong, but for me, the issue that I had with this was that the plot just felt a little bit predictable. Whereas with Remnant Chronicles, it's keeping you on your toes all the time, which I really enjoyed. So in terms of what I prefer, it's definitely the Remnant Chronicles, followed by Dance of Thieves, Vow of Thieves. I do think it's still worth a read. Manifest by Roxina Fusi. So good. It's about self-love, overcoming challenges, and self-sabotage. Would definitely recommend. Then we've got Cross the Line by Simone Sultani. F1 romance. It just felt a little bit too sweet, a little bit too easy, a little bit too predictable, and they fell so fast for each other. I was like, okay, let's put the brakes on a little bit. Not my favorite. This book devastated me, wrecked me, ruined me, but didn't heal me in the process like I thought it would. This was not what I thought it was going to be going into it. I didn't actually know what the plot was about, because on the back it talks about a love. It talks about a love story, and yes, that is what it is at its core, but there's an underlying theme here which has got huge trigger warnings, doesn't have trigger warnings in the front, which I really think it needs. I still don't know how I feel about this. Kinda hate it, kinda loved it. But for me, the epilogue ruined this book, so I don't think I can recommend it. I don't think this is a book that you need to read in your life. I think if you didn't read this, you'd be absolutely fine. The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness, book 5 actually in the All Souls series. This was her new release for last year. Really enjoy being back in this world, really enjoy being back with these characters. If you haven't read A Discovery of Witches, I highly recommend. I love that series so much. It's dark academia, it's vampires, it's witches, it's demons, and it's got a plot that will really truly keep you on your toes. The Holy Frigging Trinity. The Holy Trinity, sci-fi mastery, a must-read, not beginner-friendly, but I have this on a pedestal so high. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. I feel like this is a must for everybody at some point in their life. Super easy to listen to, super easy to get through, and it has you laughing at times, but then also being bowled away by the simplicity of the wisdom in this, and like, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. How have I not realised that before? Is the energy that you get with this book. If you are new to the self-help genre, I would definitely recommend starting with this. By The Orchid and the Owl by Maria Montoya. I thought this was going to be really good. It's like a school setting, it's an academy setting. Love the concept, love the world. Didn't love the FMC. She was a little bit insufferable at points for me, and that took me out of the plot. And sometimes the plot / writing felt a little bit juvenile. So for that reason, I feel like you could miss this. You can miss this one. Then we need to talk about this, Reckless by Lauren Roberts. As you guys know, I am not the biggest lover of Powerless. That book I didn't love as much as most people loved. For me, the reason why was just because it felt so similar to Hunger Games that every time I was reading things and it felt similar to a point where it was a bit too much, it was just taking me out of the plot, and I couldn't connect to the world and I couldn't connect to the characters. But I really wanted to give Reckless a try in the hopes that it would veer away from that narrative and stand on its own 2 feet a little bit in terms of the plot and the writing. And yes, it did do that. It did veer away from Hunger Games, but the plot just went nowhere in this book. Like, nothing happened, and it was very predictable. And I read it and I was like, okay, fine, I'm probably not going to read the 3rd book, just because I've given book 1 a try, wasn't my favourite. I've given book 2 a try, it definitely was not a favourite by any stretch of imagination, so why am I going to carry on? I'm not. That's how I feel about this series. Then we've got Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I love this book. I love the chemistry between Charlie and Nora. I ate up their story. I related to our female main characters so much, and I just thought this was absolutely divine. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was one that had been on my TBR for so long, and I kept putting it off, and it was for a stupid reason that when I opened the book there was like newspaper articles, and that just put me off, which is stupid. I know it's so stupid, but anyway, I was struggling to get into it for that reason, so I started it on audio and immediately was invested in the story, immediately wanted to know more, and then picked up the physical book and carried on reading the rest of the way, and I loved it. I loved it so much. Like, I truly get now why people love this book. It's both entertaining and emotive and full of secrets and glamour and mystery and intrigue and all that good stuff. I was then lucky enough to receive an advanced reader copy of Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. This actually comes out in February this year, and I could not be more excited for the world to experience the absolute incredible story that is within the pages of this book. From Laura's profound writing style to the stunning storyline, she really hits the jackpot. It's giving Addie LaRue, and it's one of those ones where it's a beautiful story with twists and turns that will leave you shocked, breathless, and wanting more. The connection, the chemistry, the banter, this was a 5-star read for me, and the subplot of grief and loss is covered so beautifully in this book, and I just feel like this is one of the blueprints for romance. Song of the Marked by S.M. Gaither was a really amazing read for me. I love this. I read it and immediately was like, why is nobody else screaming about this book? It has you completely immersed in the plot, it's fast-paced, action-packed, it's got divine enemies to lovers. The romance is so good, like so good, and the plot and the concept and the world was just unlike anything I'd ever read, and it was so refreshing and so captivating. I loved this first book in this series, but I have heard the rest of the books kind of flop off a little bit, so that remains to be seen because I haven't read them, but the first book was great. Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. Didn't love this one. Thought me and Olivia Blake were gonna be a match made in heaven. We weren't. It's witty, it's got a unique plot, unique concept, but the plot and the concept didn't really go anywhere for me, and so for that reason, we were not compatible, sadly. Another book that had taken me bloody years to get to and to finally read, and once I did, I was like, why? Why has it taken me so long? Why is this the theme in my life? Kaya's story is remarkable, has you second guessing everything that you think that you know, how it gives you a whole new appreciation for the female form and what she is forced to endure. Oh, it's a murder mystery, but also a beautifully painful coming of age story in the purest, most unique form. You guys, to bleed a crystal bloom, to snap a silver stem, and to flame a wildflower, definitely a highlight of the year for me. One of a kind, one of my all-time favourites again, and it's a dark retelling of Rapunzel. Check the trigger warnings, emotionally you're going to go through it. It's going to be the best tension you've ever read in your entire life. Please, I beg you, read it. You and Me on Vacation by M. Hen is actually my least favourite of her books. I didn't love this one as much as I love the others. Didn't connect with the characters much, and I just didn't love the miscommunication that was happening all over this book. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Halliday. This is a straight to the point, no bullshit talking kind of book. And for me, I prefer more of a flowery read. I do. I have to say it. I prefer more of a flowery read. If you're a no nonsense, no bullshit kind of person, you're gonna enjoy this. For me, I just didn't. All the Hidden Monsters by Amy Jordan. This is an urban fantasy. It's about werewolves and warlocks and a murder mystery, and the premise of it really, really intrigued me. However, it did feel a little bit juvenile at times, and the plot was a little bit predictable at times too. Finding 13 by Chloe Walsh has my entire heart and soul. This broke me but repaired me at the same time. It had that unique combination of being able to make you laugh out loud physically and make you sob on the next chapter. The same theme carried on with Keeping 13, but even more so. Loved book 1, but book 2 for me was my favourite, and both of them have got a special place in my heart. I really, really, really loved the start of this series so much. I definitely would recommend this. I do just want to say though, I went into these not expecting to like them. I thought they were too big for what they were, and I also thought that the main characters were too young for it to be able to connect and resonate with me, and boy was I wrong. So if you do have that kind of feeling about these books and it's putting you off, do not let that put you off. Do not let that hold you back, because they are just more than you could hope for, and they're actually not long enough. Holding the Reins by Tracy Hope, Cowboy Romance. The backward baseball cap wearing MMCs will forever be my favourite. The spice is really good, and it's so sweet, but it's just like sweet enough. It's good, it's great. I think this is the perfect kind of palate cleanser you need, especially if you've just had like a hard, heavy hitting fantasy. This is gonna give you the perfect antidote. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, pains me to say, but this book was not my cup of tea actually. I really thought I was going to love it. I really thought it was going to be magical and enchanting and dreamlike and everything I wanted. But my first question is, where are all the fairies? This is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, but actually fairies don't feature a lot in this, I didn't think. And it kind of just felt a little bit boring. So sorry, because I know so many people love this, and I really truly thought I was going to be one of them. Sadly, this just hit middle of the road for me. Legend by Stacey McEwen, loved. The perfect winter romantasy fantasy kind of read. Spark of the Everflame, loved. Such a fantastic start to a romantasy series. Exactly what I was needing. I ate it up. Then I moved on to Glow of the Everflame, and I loved that even more. There was more drama, there was more plot, there was more secrets. There was just more keeping you guessing, more keeping you on the edge of your seat. And then I also finished up the year at some point by reading Heat of the Everflame, and I loved that too. Overall, this series is absolutely fantastic. This was a unique one because From the Embers was a real mixture of grief and heartbreak, twists and turns, and romance. It had a little bit of everything, and I just really enjoyed it actually. It's super short, and yeah, do you know what? I would recommend this. I had also Vicious Secrets. The glossary is your best friend with this, and it's a lot more intricate and detailed than you would believe from the cover. And it did take me a little bit of a while to get into it, so for that reason it kind of like dropped the score a little bit, but I enjoyed the world, I enjoyed the concept, and this was just like, it was a good effort, a good first book. This is a tricky one for me because I won't be running to read the next book. Like, I'm not super keen for it. I'm not counting down the days until the next book comes out. But I did have a good time. So it's like a little bit, yeah, didn't love it, didn't hate it. It's just a little bit in between for me. Buy Yourself the Damn Flowers is probably my favourite audiobook that I read last year. It is the pep talk you didn't know you needed. You need this book on speed dial. It feels like a voice note, like an extra long voice note from your best friend, filled with wisdom and love and advice and all that good stuff. If you're looking for a book on self-love, inner confidence and prioritizing yourself, this is it. The Forgotten and the Feared is going to be perfect if you love dragons, if you like your books darker, like in particular with a touch of horror or a touch of violence, then this has got your name all over it, beautifully written, and an underdog, I think. Mistress of Lies, love the character representation, love the potential this book had. Did it fulfill the potential? No. No, it did not. Phantasma, read this at spooky season, add it to your TBR for spooky season, the perfect spooky season read. A Diary of Blood by S.T. Gibson, absolute perfection. Yes, you need to read it. It's heartbreaking, it's emotive, it's dark, it's seductive, it's about power and manipulation, but then it's also about grief and loss and love, and it is just absolutely beautiful, standalone perfection. Avalon Tower, you've got urban fantasy, you've got mentor meets mentee, you have got fae, it's urban fantasy, action-packed, and a fun time. Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields, the way I ate this book up, oh my good god. I love this. I love the duet actually, to be honest. Book 1 and book 2 had a great time. Yeah, it's spicy, the spice does dominate, but the MMC dominates better. The cat and mouse aspect of this book, yeah, it's everything. The tension is so good. This duet just absolutely slapped so hard for me. Training the Heart by Paisley Hope is the second book in the Silver Pine series, which I talked about earlier. I did enjoy book 1. Book 2 for me is my favourite so far. I can't even explain to you how good this was for a cowboy romance. Ticked all of the boxes. It's spicy, you've got bossy rancher, you've got grumpy sunshine, dual POV, small town, cowboy romance, need I say more. The Black Feathers by Rebecca Netley. This is like a mystery thriller. Perfect for an October kind of read. If you want a book that's going to scare you, creep you out, spook you out, this is it. Just spooked me out a little bit too much. Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. This was so short. I think it was literally like an hour and something on audio, and it was because I didn't have enough time to fit like a full self-help book in that month. So I was like, let's at least get something in. And I enjoyed it, I did, but because it was so short, I can't really rate it. It was too short to rate. There wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough to get you going, you know? So it was kind of like, I don't really know what I think to it. It was good for what it was. And yeah, why not? Give it a read. If you want a super short read, why not? I loved everything about this book. It's dark, it's spicy. Check the triggers before reading, that's for sure. I couldn't put this down. I didn't see the plot twist coming. It's giving student teacher. No notes. And part 2, The Cursed, also loved that as well. What I was worried about was how it was going to continue with the tension and the unpredictability that we got with their relationship. How was that going to carry on in book 2? Was that going to fall a bit flat? And Harper L. Woods found new ways to keep that exciting and entertaining and intriguing, which I loved. So yeah, this duology I adored. A Dark and Drowning Tide. The sapphic academic rivalry had me. It carried this book and I love that about it so much. But I found myself disconnecting with one of our female main characters, and that had a little bit of an emphasis on how much I enjoyed the book. So love the sapphic academic rivals-esque style of this, but I didn't love a few other different things, so I thought it was going to be a 5-star and it wasn't. The next one is actually still on my shelf because I forgot that I read this. But it's All the Devils by Caitlin Wilson. First 100 pages, I thought this was going to be a really special read, and then something just happened, it flopped off. And I was like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of plot holes happening with this. Can't see past it, can't reconnect. and it just fell off a bit of a cliff for me. Funny story about Emily Henry, one of my all-time favourite romances I've ever read. Made me feel seen, made me feel understood, really resonated and connected. It's witty, it's got banter, it's got romance, and it has got Emily writings absolutely perfect. Perfect, beautiful, gorgeous writing. Cannot recommend this one enough. Riftborn by Grenick and Lennox. It's giving special ops space fantasy. It's giving Fourth Wing meets X-Men. Do I need to say any more? This will make you rethink everything that you think you know, and oh, honestly, get to the end, message me all your theories. That's all I'm gonna say. Play Along by Liz Tomfordy. I didn't expect to love this, and I did. It was the best time. I was giggling, kicking, screaming, my feet, you know that saying, that I just got that, I totally butchered that saying, but you know what I mean. I had the best time with this. It's a series about green flag men, which I didn't think was my cup of tea. But actually, it was. I enjoyed it, loved it, was smiling from ear to ear, just gave me the best experience. Oh, such a great romance. If you're looking for a fantastic romance that's gonna sweep you off your feet and give you all the good feelings, this is it. The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is very much a psychological thriller in my opinion. It's scary, kept me on my toes. It scared me more than I thought it was going to be, but I think I scared quite easily, so that's not really saying much. But I thought it was really addictive, the embodiment of Jennifer's writing. And if you're looking for a crime, psychological thriller-esque series, then this has got your name all over it. Manacled by Senlin Yu. A few months later, I'm still staring at the wall. A few months later, I'm still thinking about this book. It will live rent-free in my head forever. A masterpiece. Oh, it's been taken off AO3. If you have it on your Kindle and you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for? That's all I have to say. Wrath of the Never Queen. Really unique concept, had a lot of potential, but not one of my favourites. Metal Slinger. You know, having its moment on BookTok at the moment, and I can see why. I gave this a 4 stars. It is a great time. It is a really unique and interesting world, filled with plot twists. If you read it for nothing else but the cliffhanger, read it for that reason. I think go in blind and just see what you think. Sisters of Sword and Song is a book all about sisters and the dynamic and the relationships and the bonds between sisters, and I love that aspect. I love Rebecca's writing. So if you're looking for a book that's about the bonds between sisters and that's a sweet kind of fantasy, which is a little bit different to what we normally get, then you will really enjoy this. Man's Search for Meaning is one of those books that I feel like everybody needs to read at some point in their life. It is really hard hitting. Loved the first part, didn't love the second part just because it's more psychological jargon, and that for me just goes straight over my head. Snowden by Catherine Walsh was one of my favourite romances of the year actually. It took me by surprise. Christmas romance, definitely one to add to your Christmas TBRs. It is perfect. Everything that you could want in a Christmas romance and so much more. On the flip side of things, we've got Meet Your Match by Candy Steiner. Didn't love this one like I thought I was gonna because it just didn't connect with the relationship between the two main characters, because it's a little bit different to what we normally see, and so some people might really love that, but for me, it just didn't hit its mark. So yeah, not my favourite romance that I've ever read. The Scattered Bones is, honestly, read it. Please, please, please read it. It's a standalone romantasy, and it is packed with emotional devastation. It's a book that's going to make you feel, and it's so unique, so unlike anything I've ever read before. I will be recommending this forevermore. My final audio for the year was Rising Strong by Brene Brown. This was really, really good actually. It's all about embracing the courage to be vulnerable, face fear and failure, and it's just a super empowering kind of read. Don't read a lot of dark romance, didn't expect to love this dark romance, but boy oh boy did I love this dark romance. Guys, it is like heavy from the first chapter. First chapter, you're right in at the deep end, you'll know whether it's for you or not. Definitely check the triggers. But you cannot put this book down. I don't know what is in it, but I bloody loved it. And finally, book 119 was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. The final part in the duology, love being back in this world. Very sweet, very wholesome kind of fantasy, very light on the fantasy as well. Roman and Iris are so perfect together. Their love is timeless and will span the ages. And that is the reason why you should read this duology. So that's it for this week's video. 119 books was a lot to get through. It really truly was, but I tried to keep it as short and sweet as I could. Thank you so much for watching as always. I hope you have a gorgeous week and I will see you at the next one.